Now, the Hollywood scene is kind of in a mess right now, especially since, the Screen Actors Guild and the Writers Guild of America are both on strike. This means that employees who are not members of those guilds are not able to do any work. So the majority of Hollywood content is just not being made. People aren't writing and people aren't acting. So people naturally are not shooting, which, is probably sad news for Alec Baldwin. I know he loves doing shoots for all types of films. But this is not just a matter of, these employees want these things and the Hollywood studios just being greedy. Let's be honest here. The studios are kind of in a state of distress right now. And actually, I kind of wish I had this clip on hand, but you can go check out an episode of Serial at Midnight. He had a podcast where he had on an executive who is a veteran of, working for multiple studios.
Last year, the studios lost $800 million a month on average from their streaming business. Mm-hmm. I mean, if Evans was running Paramount and he lost $5 million on a film, his job was in jeopardy. Yeah. So I don't understand.
So these streaming services are losing these companies money. And on top of that, these studios have been paring back how much money they've been spending in certain aspects. They've shown that they're willing to spend $300 million on, a handful of films each year. But when it comes to production and various things, they've been trying to cut back, especially when it comes to making these shows on streaming. Now, I know that this is a lot of pretext to the actual topic of this video, which is going to be, Bob Iger trying to sell like a third of Disney. But I think that this context is important, right? These studios are bleeding money in part because of their streaming services. Now, I think that with these strikes going on, these guilds have really dug in their heels, and I don't really see them giving in to the studio's demands. So I think this is why we're seeing things like this. Bob Iger's announcing that he wants to sell a large portion of Disney's assets. I believe he says he wants to sell like a third of the company. He wants to sell ABC, FX, and Freeform. He wants to, it looks like, basically sell part of ESPN. I think one report I saw said that he wants to get rid of Disney Plus and keep Hulu. The plans for that have not been very concrete at all. But I think that this does show that these guilds might actually get what they want, because the studios are paring down how much money they're spending, and what can they do with that extra money? What can they do with that extra moolah, the extra $1.52 billion of content that they're not spending on these losing propositions? Well, they can spend this money on the people who are actually making their content. Now, one could say that these studios could still pay the employees money if they wanted to, and yes, probably true. But at the end of the day, this is not a profitable endeavor to be making content the way that they're making it right now, right? They ballooned the amount of content that they're making. They've tried to cut corners to both decrease the amount of money that they're paying writers and stuff, while still trying to pump out tons and tons of content. It's just not a good strategy. We've got, people who are basically getting shows for free, right? Not trying to belittle the real cost of streaming services, but $15 a month for a huge library of content is not the same as paying $15 for an actual show on iTunes. It's just not comparable. So it's understandable why these people are not getting the money that I would argue that they deserve. I think that we're going to need to see two main things in order for this to happen. Either one, these streaming services move towards an ad-based model. A lot of these people are relying on residuals. These residuals could get paid out from ad revenue. So we could see that. Or two, we could see either some sort of merging of streaming services into a massive bundle that'll cost more money, and then that brings in more money so they can then send more money over to the people who actually made the content, or just raising the prices of various streaming services. We recently heard that Peacock is raising their price by $1 a month. So there are shifts happening in Hollywood, it'll be very interesting to see what the future is. Interested to see if companies like Disney can succeed, between their terrible content, their workers being unhappy, and the fact that they're bleeding money. I'm kind of curious to see how long these empires rise as they exist today. If they refuse to do so, if they'll still be around in another 5 or 10 years.